Coming up on this episode of Outlook TV. Heather Angel of Trump's Fine Foods.
Day of Pink Dim Sum for Out in Schools.
Undetectable, a documentary featuring Tiko Kerr, and much, much more. Hello and welcome to Outlook TV. I'm Rebecca Wyman.
And my name is T. We'd like to thank the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations for the honor and privilege to film this episode of Outlook TV on their traditional unceded territories.
Outlook TV is the news magazine show that brings you all the queer stories that matter the most from coast to coast. We're going to kick it off with a story about us.
We look great for being 10 years old.
I know, not a day over 9.
Don't mind the gray hairs.
This is Emperor Victor reporting from Outlook TV's 10th anniversary party in Vancouver. Let's talk to some of our guests.
Blue skies and all the way. I want to cruise on the highway. You and I need to relax and unwind, 'cause we all need
Vancouver, of all LGBT communities, has the most coverage of TV any city across Canada. Because of all of us.
Mike, tell us about your favorite experience with Outlook TV.
Back when we did I think it was the Out Games, that was a lot of fun because we were down at the Plaza of Nations and the big crowds was a lot of fun.
More of my favorite moment is when we went from one show to 2 shows a month. And then shortly after that, I left Outlook. No, I had to do it. I know that we're celebrating 10 years, and it's been a hot minute. We've been doing it for a while, and I think we covered a lot of ground, and a lot of queer history has been covered.
So I think some of my favorite moments were being behind the camera or actually in the editing bay, learning all, putting things together, and learning that 1 minute of film is like 1 hour of editing.
I was thinking about all of them. I've met so many people. It's given us such access, like Margaret Cho and local heroes like Tracy Bell and Fanny Kiefer and Fiona Forbes. But my best, Boy George. I had 10 minutes of the most magnificence with Boy George. He gave me such truth and honesty. It's the proudest thing I've ever done in my whole career, really, honestly.
Was Whistler.
Whistler for sure.
We went up to cover Winter Pride up there, and I proposed to my husband there on top of the mountain. And Mike, our fabulous cameraman, filmed it all. We had a huge party. It was a non-stop fest the whole weekend. So that would be the ultimate joy I had with the Outlook TV.
Whistler Pride is always tremendous fun. And getting to work, I think my favorite is getting to work with such wonderful people that I have become close friends with over the years. I think that is the most special thing. Keeping Michael Keeping from getting into a girl fight because he turned on one of his camera lights and scared the hell out of a bunch of women at a lesbian event. Really, there's just so many memories. Outlook Television is an amazing group of people.
One that comes to mind that I did enjoy was interviewing a group of players in a theater production. Their theme was transgender throughout. Many of the actors were actual transgender, and so it was very interesting to see and to talk to them.
Well, there's so many, and I just enjoy the people. Going to Whistler, going to World Pride. There's so many. It's a fantastic experience.
Tell us your favorite experience with Outlook TV over the years.
Watching myself on television. On Out TV.
At the Outlook TV 10th anniversary party, this is Emperor Victor reporting from the Junction.
Coming up, we've got a very positive story.
A wonderful story coming out of Ukraine with a gay violinist playing the Ukrainian national anthem to raise awareness.
We're just catching up with Matthew Sedej. He's a Ukraine-born Canadian who has a tour right now of peace and love and hope for the people of Ukraine, and we're hoping that it reaches from this ocean to the other side of the world.
I'm running my Peace and Love Tour of Hope for Ukraine and playing my violin all across Vancouver to show some solidarity to my birth country. I remember my mom showing me that wedding video, and I honestly really got emotional when I saw my uncle playing his violin up on the choir loft. And ever since then, I always saw the violin as this very impressive and interesting and very complicated looking instrument. And it stood out from all the other instruments, and that's why I wanted to pick it up. Coming out was a very easy thing for me to do, and I understand other people have had it much worse than me. So I'm pretty fortunate to have music in my life to help me stand in pride for my community, being a gay man. Classical music has always been something that I've turned to when times have gotten hard for me. So sometimes there's a pressure for people when they come out, and so I turn to my classical music when situations get tough for me. My message is for all the Ukrainians out there that you're not alone, and I hope the best for your country going forward, and Canada stands with you.
This is Patrick Massey in New Brighton Park in Vancouver, BC for Outlook TV.
We're going to have to take a break now.
Rebecca, I like your hair. I think I'm going to go color mine now.
Oh, that would be fun.
Hi, my name is Heather Angel of Trump's Fine Food Merchants and Wholesalers, and you're watching Outlook TV.
Welcome back. You're watching Outlook TV.
And here's a positive story about something to do with Trump. We're catching up with Heather Angel, who produces Trump's Fine Foods. No relation.
What does it mean to be successful? How does one capitalize on passion? Well, this woman learned what it means to be resilient, dedicated, and quality-driven. The woman I'm talking about is Heather Angel and her critically acclaimed Trump Bakery. Follow me as I go inside and keep up. There's quite a lot to see.
Well, I actually never even thought about baking for a living. I think my first retail outlet was when I was 7 on the corner of 41st and Wilshire. I had my Easy Bake Oven, and I had my little lemonade stand. That was my first retail outlet, and I really loved that. I think that's what started it. And then I was always the one in charge of my family of picking out the restaurant that we were going to go to, because we went out for dinner at least once a week. And that's when I started my own company in 1987. And I had my store built in 1988. So it took me about a year to get the store built and get it going. Building your first retail store is always a challenge. I was really lucky with having that location, because very early on in having that location, I acquired Starbucks, who only had a couple stores in Vancouver, as one of my first wholesale clients. And then I had my little retail store, and then I did catering, because you couldn't survive just on one element of business. I had the three going at the same time. Got married kind of spiritually to somebody else as my first marriage, and it wasn't even a legal marriage back then. it was just my family and my friends came and we had a big party and we had sort of like a little spiritual ceremony in front of people, but we couldn't legally get married. And then many years later, I met my now wife, who I was able to legally marry. And but you know, you have to remember when you're at that stage in your life where you want to commit to someone and you can't legally marry them, or it's not considered to be appropriate. Yeah, that's kind of the era I had to grow up through. Well, there wasn't any queer identity to look up to back then. But, so I would say I really loved Shirley MacLaine. I really loved Martha Stewart and Julia Childs. Those are the people I would really be always curious what they were doing, or if they were lecturing or doing something. And then eventually I got to cater for Martha Stewart, so that was really cool. But yeah, no, I think those three women are very strong.
What would you tell a young up-and-coming queer entrepreneur?
I think really the important thing is to have a very clear vision of where you want to go. And really do your market analysis, get your costs in line, really know what your costs are going to be, and really what it's going to cost you for overhead, for materials, or whatever you're doing. The biggest problem I find that they have is they're not clear about what the rules of engagement are, either with their clients or with their employees. They don't set out all their boundaries. And even though most stuff should be common sense, you'd be surprised most stuff isn't.
What a demonstration of excellence. How to take a few simple ingredients and turn them into an empire. I'm Emily Ann Fraser. You're watching Outlook TV Vancouver.
We're going to head off to Halifax now and check in with the local drag scene.
Here's Jesse with a story on Vanity Station.
Hey Outlook TV, we're back in Halifax, and tonight we're at Lot 6 at Euphoria, and we're here with Queen Vanity Station. Hi! And we're just going to get to know a little bit about her and the drag world in Halifax tonight.
My name's Vanity Station. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns, and I was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia, baby. I've been doing drag since 2016. If you're good at maths, I'm not. I'll give you a little hint. That's 6 years. I grew up in Halifax, which is kind of a small town compared to the rest of Canada and where it's at with queer history and advancements. And I would go to this little place in the city called the Youth Project, and they had this youth drags workshop back in 2016. So I was like, okay, girl, well, I better go there. I better try and find some people who are at least resemble the way I act. And luckily, when I was there was a fabulous glamazon there named Devastation. And when I walked in about 30 minutes late, she said, "You, get in the chair." And baby, the rest is history. I'm feeling like I still want to play it safe, so I'm still wearing a mask when I go out in places because I got so many shows lined up. Now that things are opening up, the shows are just piling up, and I want to make sure that every show can happen, that I'm safe, I'm COVID-free, that I can make it to every single one of these shows so we can have a fabulous, fierce, and safe summer, baby. No, baby, oh my God, I was sending in applications, girl, all last week. The performance application was due, the event funding application was due, and let me tell you, Halifax Pride is out there to support. It's gonna be a fierce festival, baby. Now it's time I'll take you back. Yeah, you like it when I move it to the beat like that. Got that bump bump in your trunk. Got them speakers burning. Tonight we are doing Euphoria here at Lot 6. We have a backstage exclusive. Not everyone gets to see this, but we like you at Outlook TV, so you get a little backstage peek, baby.
Well, that's all I have for you tonight. I think I'm gonna go enjoy the little party drag show, get a little drinks going on, you know, sip sip. Have a good night. Happy 10th anniversary, Outlook TV, and that was this is Jessie reporting for Outlook TV.
It's time for a little break for us.
Great, might be time for me to grow my hair like yours.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Hi, I'm Tiko Kerr, and you're enjoying Outlook TV.
Welcome back. You're watching Outlook TV.
Our next story is about the documentary called Undetectable, featuring Tiko Kerr.
We're at the Parker Street Studios in Vancouver to speak with Canadian visual artist Tiko Kerr about the documentary Undetectable. Let's go meet him and find out what it's all about.
It usually comes at a time where we have no idea where it's coming from, no idea how it's transmitted. Undetectable, the documentary about basically the history of HIV, was created by some producers in Calgary who thought it might be an interesting idea to have me on board as art director. So they called me one day and pitched the idea, and I agreed, and we worked together for about a year. I've been taking a lot of medication over the years and accumulating a lot of bottles. Artists are pack rats. Like, we don't like throwing things away because it could probably be turned into art one day. And I have accumulated over the years so many pill bottles that it just didn't seem right to put them in the landfill. So I've been working on making a series of self-portraits and landscapes that have something to do with HIV using the bottles. When I was first diagnosed with HIV, it was a death sentence. Well, it's interesting that my particular experience, having been infected with HIV in 1985, kind of mirrors the whole trajectory of the infections in the larger population. So the film starts with the late 80s or late 60s and Stonewall, that sort of thing, and how the gay community in particular had to stand up for rights to accessing information about health and medications, that sort of thing. And then going on through the different conferences that we had all over the world that would demonstrate newer outlooks on prevention and control, and how now we've reached a place where we can actually control and actually stop HIV infection. The unfortunate thing is that we don't seem to have the political will to make that happen. We happen to be living in a really progressive province of British Columbia, and led by Dr. Julio Montaner and the BC Centre of Excellence, who has formulated a very progressive idea that getting as many people on the medications will stop the transmission and will stop the infection rates of HIV. So that British Columbia is the only province in the country where the infection rates are dropping steadily, and everywhere else in Canada, they're still climbing. U equals U is just basically boiling all of the theory down to a very, very simple formula, so that the first U is undetectable, which means someone suffering with HIV takes the medications. The medication suppresses the virus so that they cannot find the virus in the system. The virus is undetectable. And by doing so, they're untransmittable. So U equals U means undetectable equals untransmissible.
Let's let this be the last generation, affected by HIV and AIDS.
Undetectable is actually on YouTube now, and all you have to do is go to YouTube, Undetectable, and you can find it.
For Outlook TV, this is Angus Pratt at the Parker Street Studios in Vancouver.
I can only think of one thing that's better than dim sum.
What's that?
Fundraiser dim sum!
For Out in Schools.
We're at the Cold Tea Restaurant for a dim sum luncheon for the Out in Schools program to celebrate the Day in Pink.
Today we're gathered for the Day of Pink, which happens, I think, every second Wednesday in April, but of course today is Sunday. And we're doing drag dim sum to support the Out in Schools program. In 2004, Out in Schools has basically taken 2S LGBTQI film, and we bring it into schools across BC. And so we do that to have a conversation about gender and sexuality, but also just about how we as the queer, trans, and two-spirit community exist. It's about creating empathy and trust and showing kids, especially those that identify as queer and trans, that they're not alone.
It's a new life for me.
The pandemic, I think, anyone who was running a program, or even just everyone, our lives were disrupted. And I think at the beginning we had to cancel all of our touring plans because we do presentations in schools. That's out in schools, and then we couldn't be in schools anymore. We adapted really quickly and we moved to Zoom, online platforms, and we weren't sure how that was going to work, but Out in Schools has been extremely busy over the last 2 years.
Your donation means that queer youth in BC today will get the opportunity to see themselves included in films that help their peers understand what they're going through.
We make our budget, and of course we need to fundraise to fill the gaps in our budget, and these funds essentially go straight into paying for our facilitating team, our hard costs of like paying rent in a pandemic, all the things, our Zoom subscription, all the things that make our program work. I have been with Out on Screen for over 7 years. I started as a program coordinator for Out in Schools, and it is a program very dear to my heart. I've seen it single-handedly change lives, and I know what it would have meant for me growing up in a school where I kind of felt alone and misunderstood. And I think that Out in Schools gives those young folks a chance, and we desperately need to give young people all the chances they can get right now. The world can seem very dark, but Out in Schools is definitely the light for a lot of those young people. And so Out in Schools is a provincial-wide program. We travel on Zoom to every corner of BC. Even if it wasn't a pandemic, we would travel to every corner of this province. I think last school year, we reached almost 9,000 young people via Zoom, which is just phenomenal. We are hoping that in September, we can go back into classrooms and be in real life with young people to talk about these issues.
From the Cold Tea Restaurant in Vancouver, this is Gary Wolfader for Outlook TV.
That's all the time we have for this episode of Outlook TV, but we'll be back before you know it.
And in between coloring your hair like her, why don't you join us on all our social media platforms, or even consider volunteering with us?
We are a heck of a lot of fun. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Rebecca Wyman.
And my name is T.
Stay safe, Canada.